So, hi, we're back at the doggy salon and we're going to try and correct the electrical problems which you've seen in the previous video. So, let's do the IR test. Okay, so that's unjump at that end. So let's do the line to, while we're connected up, let's do the line to neutral IR test. So we'll switch it to 250 and we'll just do it at 250 to start with. So you probably saw on the display it was struggling to get to the 250 volts, and that's the reading we got, 0.049. Now the minimum is 1 mega ohm. Between 1 and 2 mega ohms you've got to really do some investigation. Above 2 mega ohms it's considered a pass. We're nowhere near that. So there's obviously a problem with the cable between line and neutral. Let's have a look at the other cables. Let's have a look at the other conductors rather. Let's see what's going on. So we're going to do line to CPC now. Let's see if line to CPC has got a reading. That's even worse. So that's not good. So let's see neutral to CPC. Oops, that's not connected. And neutral to CPC, let's see what we got. Bad as well. So there is a fault from this cable going back to the board, and that's going under the floor. That's what's potentially tripping the RCD out, to be honest. So let's do an IR test, line neutral. So we'll set it to 250, don't have to, but we'll do it at 250. Let's see what we get. Line neutral. There you go. No problem with the line to neutral, greater than 2000 mega ohms. And you saw the voltage was 250 volts DC. No problem there. Just for completeness, let's do 500. Voltage steady. Greater than 2 mega ohms. So there's no problem with that. Let's turn it off for safety. Let's do neutral CPC. Let's see what we get now. That's 250. Getting 2 mega ohms. Let's do it at 500. No problem there. So let's do line CPC. I haven't done. Check that up properly. Yeah, I think. So we're doing line CPC now. And as you can see, we're getting a very different reading now. We're at a steady voltage, but we're only getting 3 mega ohms there now. Let's do it at 500. .4 mega ohms. So it's a pass because it's above 2 mega ohms, but it is showing that there is a problem with this cable as well. What that problem, the problem is between line and CPC. Line to neutral was fine, neutral to CPC was fine, but there appears to be a problem between line and CPC. A much lower reading, much lower. But so there is this cable running back is suspect. It would pass, but it is suspect. And in actual fact, what I will say right now is when I did this test last week, that IR test between line and CPC was actually 6 mega ohms. So it's dropped another 3 mega ohms between last week and this week. So something is going on with this cable. It could be something is nibbling it, just like I think it's my suspicion in the other. So I don't think this cable going back to the board is going to last much longer, if I'm honest. Interesting. We're going to put a junction box in about there. Then we're going to run solid plastic conduit to a T-piece here. Out of that there is going to come a piece of conduit, and we're going to put a plug socket, probably a double plug socket, somewhere in that neck of the woods so we can power the telly and the laptop. Then we're going to bring conduit along here, and this is where I forgot that that's not a square corner. Square corner. So we're going to have to come down, and we can't go across this, which is the light switch cable. We can't cross that. So we're going to have to come down here with some conduit, all the way down to this point here. Then we're going to go around here with some white flexible conduit. Then we're going to come along here to this point here. And then we're going to come up a little way, and then we're going to mount the two waterproof sockets there and there, and then blank those ones off. So we're not going to have these sockets this high. I'm going to have them about that height. So I hope that's all right. Go back to the T-piece. So here's the T-piece. So we're going to come along the wall all the way along, so it's going to out of focus, to here. Now we've got two problems. We've got this here, which I didn't notice. That isn't going to allow me to do my solid plastic thing, so we're going to have to come around there with flexible conduit. The other thing I didn't notice is that ceiling is nowhere near straight, which means I can't put solid conduit on that wall because it won't fit. So we're going to have, what we're going to do is we're going to put flexible conduit to here, and then we're going to put a little bend in there, and then solid conduit down this wall. So actually not down that bit, down this bit here, just like we did. Oh no, sorry, yeah, we are going to come down this bit. Then a solid conduit along here, and then again we're going to mount the two sockets lower down. You've just seen some of the problems I've got with this room. Ceilings aren't straight, the walls aren't great, cables everywhere. It's not brilliant. So you're joining me now part way through this installation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to swing this camera around and show you what I've actually done so far and what's next on this job. Right, so let's start with the first problem that we had, and that's this corner here. Now, as you saw earlier on, I've had a real problem trying to get around this corner. So what I've decided to do is put in some flexible conduit, join to some hard 20mm conduit to get around this problem, because I can't attach anything to that thing because I've tried and nothing will attach to it. So I'm going to have to find a way of actually attaching that flexible conduit properly. But the solution I found is exactly the same as I did with the lime and wood outdoor shed project. So I've joined it in exactly the same way as you see with that video. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link in the description so you can have a look. That's all been put in there. That's gone around there. It's okay. It ain't great. I've got to find a way of attaching that to the wall, and we'll find out how to do that later. Anyway, that is heading all the way up there. So that junction there, as you can see, I've got the cables already run through there. 2.5mm, 1.5 earth singles. That is then going to run across here, and roughly somewhere in that neck of the woods there is the hole that's going to be drilled so that I can attach it to the existing radial. So we're going to do that next. Now I'm going to come down here. Now I couldn't actually attach, or I was having real trouble attaching to this wall partition thing. Let me swing you around. What's behind there is that tiles, and it's only, you can just see that's the gap we're working with. Okay, not great. Like I say, this is only a temporary solution because this cladding is actually coming off at some point in the future. So this is a temporary, it might be temporary, but it's still going to be safe. So what I did, you can see I'll put the saddles on that bit there. And we'll come across here, and then we've come up to the new sockets, which are there and there. Now, I've gone with waterproof ones because this area of the studio is where they're going to be cutting the fur of the dogs, and the dogs are already wet and they tend to shake when they're wet. Anyone who knows who's had a dog, that water will go everywhere. So I'm putting in waterproof sockets into here. So there's two there already in, and these sockets are being decommissioned. What I'll do is I'll blank those off. Like I say, this cladding is all coming down. All this cladding, sorry, is all coming down. So in the future, we'll be putting in proper sockets and things. But for now, so that we can get things back up and working properly, we're going to do that. I've done an IR test on these sockets again. This is about a month on from that previous video, and the IR readings have stabilised at 3 megaohms. So it's okay, it would pass, but it's still a worry. Anyway, so I'll get that connected up. Once that's done, like I say, we'll come over here, and then we're going to come down this wall. Now you can see, as I said earlier on, that wall is ridiculously not straight. So we're going to try and work out what we're going to do with that, and then replace those sockets. Right, a bit of an update as to where we're up to now. So we've seen this bit already, so I've just got a mess on the floor. So it's gone all the way up to there, so it's all junction through there, all the way along there. We've got a three-way there, and I'll explain why I've got a three-way there in a minute. And that there will be connected. Whoa. So that socket there, ooh, we will be bringing stuff into here. There we go. Turn on the microphone with the ISO settings. So that three-way, we've got way goes in there. That is what will come across here and all the way down to new sockets over there. So if I connected that up to the radial now through the wall, that would all liven up those sockets. That'll be done. But I won't be doing that. I'll do that last. So I'll run the new cables in over here. Then we'll do the dead tests. Sorry. Then we'll connect it up to the radial circuit after disconnecting it from the board. We'll do some dead tests, continuity, IR. We know that the IR on this circuit up to the wall socket the other side of this wall is perfectly fine. That's why we're using it. So if there's any problems now, it's what I've done. So we'll do that. And we'll carry on and we'll see where we'll get up to. You know, some real fun and games on this other side. So we've got the cables there that we're going to join up there. Got a nice straight piece of conduit all the way to there, and then as you can see, we've had to switch to flexible conduit because, unlike the wall on the other side, which is pretty much attached to the wall underneath, this isn't. I don't know whether you can probably see this, how much flex there is, but I don't know how much room there is between that and the wall, but there's a lot. Anyway, it wouldn't hold normal conduit, just wouldn't hold it. And it certainly wouldn't hold the sockets that I'm going to put on. So I've had to make some changes. So the sockets are going to go 150mm up from the wall on this wooden panel. All that is wood, which is much better than on the other side. So we're going to mount them on the wooden panel down there. Normal 20mm PVC conduit up to where you can see the flex, which is there. Then it's going to convert back to flex and then up the wall. It looks okay, don't get me wrong, it's not the way I would have liked to have done it. I would have liked to have done this all in hard PVC. I can't at this point, unfortunately, which has been a pain. And trying to, I found a way of threading these cables in a much better way using super rod. So if you ever have to do it, put your super rod through there, tie your cable on in and pull it through, it works. Did it in seconds. So yeah, it's not the way I would have liked to have done it, I'll be honest. But unfortunately, that's what I've had to do. It is straight up there, it's the ceiling that isn't, and if I pull back here, hopefully you can see that ceiling is nowhere near straight. So my conduit is, but the ceiling isn't. Anyway, yeah, not the way I would have liked to have done it, but that, as I keep saying through this video, at some point in the future the cladding is coming down. So I just need to make sure that whatever I'm doing here is installed correctly to the regs and is safe. But it is in effect, it's a temporary installation until such time this stuff comes down, and then it will go in properly. Anyway, so all I could do is make it safe, make it as neat as I possibly can. If I put it down the groove there, actually, funny enough, the actual conduit actually disappears into the cladding. So you won't actually, you'd be hard pressed to see it unless you're looking for it. So, which will be something anyway. Yeah, I look a mess. I've injured my neck and I've not been able to shave for a few days. So I've walked into a pole. Point first. Don't do it, it hurts. So, yeah, So we're going to get those two plugs mounted first. That'll give me my horizontal for my hard PVC, and then we'll connect it onto that there. Pull the wiring through, as you can see, so we'll do all that, get the wiring in, hook it up into there, and then go to the board, disconnect from the board, get the twin and earth cable through the wall there, which I've already drilled the hole for, get it all connected up. We'll do all the dead tests at that point, then we will go from there. Once I've done all the dead tests, I've confirmed that everything's fine, IR tests are done, liven it up, make sure it's all fine, then that is done. Then I've got to decommission the old circuit. Now, the problem is, if you remember from the old video, the cable that powers these comes from the front of the building, going back to the consumer unit, which is damaged by rats. We can't use it. So the only way to liven up the two sockets that are in the front on the right hand side, we'll go like that. There's two sockets, there's one there and there's one behind the ladder. Now, the only way I'm going to be able to do that is to extend the cable from there, or find where that cable's going and connect it into the new boxes which are down here. That's going to be a real faff. Right, I think the best thing I can do is finish what I'm doing here, get all this lot done, because I don't actually use those two sockets out there that much. What a pain. All because this cladding just isn't attached to the wall properly, and I can't attach anything to it. Anyway, right, so we'll carry on with that, and then we'll have to come up with a different solution for that. Right, pet peeve time. Don't do this, please. Don't tie cables together. They might do that in the States. You don't do it here. I don't want to see this again. It's a pain in the neck. Okay, so just doing the continuity test now, because we're all connected all the way through now. So we're getting 0.3 after I've done the nulling. So we're getting 0.3 there, all the way through to there. I'll do it on the other leg in a second. You can see we're all up there, all powered off. So getting 0.3 there. I'll do the other leg in just a second. We'll see what we got for that leg. Okay, so I've just got these plugged into the sockets on this side. I've got them using the adapter on this one, and 0.3 on this side, which is not really surprising. It should be about the same. Right, IR tests. Right, okay. Not everything goes according to plan, and this is why you should do your dead test before you do anything else. Because what I've put in has got a fault. Now, when I started doing the continuity tests, everything came out absolutely fine, as you saw a little bit earlier. But when I did the IR test, the R1, R2 test was fine. But when I did an R1RN, nope, that failed. So what I did was, I went back, disconnected my new work from the old circuit, and redid the tests, and the IR test was absolutely fine, which proved that whatever is wrong is in here. It's the work that I've done. So something in here, basically R1R, there's a short between line and neutral in here. Now, so what I've done so far is I've disconnected the two legs, the right hand side and the left hand side. I've retested the right hand side, which is now isolated. It's IR testing for R1RN, passed, no problem, greater than 2000 megaohms, no problem. Did the left hand side though, and that's where I got the problem. R1RN 0.1 of an ohm, I think it was. So there's a line, neutral short, somewhere between there and there. Oh well. So the question is what? I mean, I've not put a nail through anything. That was my concern to start with. I thought, oh God, what have I done? But I can't have done. This is all surface mounted cabling, and I've just tested the old part of the circuit and it's working absolutely fine. The readings there are as they were when I did them much earlier in the year. The right hand side circuit is absolutely fine as well. The fault is definitely between that top T-piece and these sockets. So what I'm going to do, because it could be a faulty socket, so I'm going to get those sockets off because I've been testing from the front. I'm going to take those sockets off, and I'm going to redo the IR test directly on the conductors and see what happens then. If the fault's still there, then I've got a nightmare, because somewhere in that conduit there's a broken single cable. Great. But this is why you do your dead test. This is the very reason you should do it. Don't assume when you put something in, it's brand new, that what you put in works. It might not. Right, let's get those socket fronts off. Okay, so we've got them both off. This is where the cable comes in first, and then it's spurred onto that one. Line and neutral connected. Oh. And no problem. So the possibility now lies is we've got possibly this is a faulty socket, or this is a faulty socket, possibly. It's not conclusive yet. So I've got more sockets because I was putting them on the other side. So what I could do is hook up a new socket front and see what happens then. Now, the one thing I'm aware of is there are, as you can see, there's neons on these sockets. Now, that could possibly, I suppose, cause me to get spurious readings. I suppose it's possible. Let's see what happens when we change the socket front, and let's see what we get then. Possibly a false alarm. This socket here has no neons on it whatsoever. I've got it connected to R1RN. And there we go. I put another one of these outdoor sockets, these BG sockets on, that also has a neon. The R1RN failed. Every other test passed, the R1RN failed. So I seem to recall, and I will have to look this up when I get home, that if you've got neons on any device, any socket like fuse spurs and things like this, they can screw up the IR test for R1RN. So that's what I think I'm seeing here. These have got neons on the socket fronts. I think that's what's causing it. When I put a bog standard socket front on, I'm not getting a problem. When these socket fronts are taken off, I'm doing it directly from the conductors, I'm not getting a problem. I'm only getting a problem when I'm putting these BG socket fronts on, and I've done 2 of them now and I've had the same fault with both of them. So I am going to call this as a false alarm. I'm going to put all this ball back together again and get it all set up, and I'm going to look this up later. If anyone else has this problem with these BG weatherproof sockets, they've got these neons on, shove it in the comments. If I find out anything, I will shove it in the comments as well. But at the moment, I think that's what's called. I don't think, on the face of it, there is an actual issue. I think my IR testing are being skewed by these neons, and I don't know how to. I don't think you can actually disconnect them temporarily for testing. So, right. So that's wasted nearly an hour of my time. And I'm going to put it all back together again. Okay, so I've just completed the RCD tests. As you can see, no problem now with the RCD, which is what the initial problem at this place was. So no problem there. I've recorded the ZE and what's the other one? LFC. Yeah, so I've done those 2, so that's for the paperwork, that's done as well. So this stage of it is done. Unfortunately, with that IR little issue, which didn't turn out to be an issue after all, has Put me back about an hour trying to diagnose that little problem. Well, it didn't turn out to be a problem at all. But anyway, so these sockets are on. So that's all up there, along there. That junction box goes to the side of the wall on that, extending that radial. And then, like I say, I've had to come down using flexible conduit down this wall because that's the only way that was going to work. I'm going to put some more saddles in there to make that nice and straight. Come along there, 2 boxes, they're 150 above the floor, which is fine. And obviously those two are going to be decommissioned over there, and obviously those are going to be decommissioned. They don't work, they've got no power to them anyway. So the only problem I'm left with is there is a cable running from there, runs along to the front of the building, as you've seen in previous videos. That needs to be livened up. I need to find a way of doing that neatly from here. So there'll be somehow I'm going to try and get a connection from there to the cable, or see if I can find the cable and drop the cable down to there. Not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet. And over here, the client's requested a socket so that they can power the TV. So I'll have to I'll run something out of there to a socket somewhere there. But they're the only 2 jobs left to do now. Now I could do the minor work certificate for extending the radial, but the issue is obviously I'm going to be extending the radial even further back out to the front of the house, so shop rather, which is right. So the furthest point of the radial will end up being that socket right under there, under that plant over there. So that will end up being the longest part of the radial. So that's where my readings will have to come from. Anywho, it's been a job and a half, but the main thing is this is the main part of the building where they do their work. The major part of the salon where they do their work. So this is where it needs to be done. I need to do a fair bit of tidying up, to be honest. I've made a right old mess out here. So yeah, you know, I do my work, but then there's a lot of dusting and sweeping up I've got to do now. Right, so I need to speak to the client as to where I've got to. The major thing is they've got power back in here, which is what they wanted. I now need to think whether there's anything I can get done now. I'll have a think, see if there's anything else I can get done. So anyway, we're done. Like I said, we've got 1 or 2 little jobs still to do. But I think it's a reasonable job, I think, given the fact that everything in this room is being completely done out. It's been redecorated, refurbished, the lot. So at some point in the future, so yeah, it's very messy back here, but the whole lot's coming down. But they have to work in here, hence the reason why the power's had to come back in. But I've had to do the power in such a way that when they do redecorate in here, I can take down my temporary stuff and it can all go back properly at a later date. So that's why it's been done the way it has. I would not do this normally with the flexible conduit. I try to make it neat and tidy and nice. But given the fact that there was horrible cladding you can see behind me and so on, it's all coming down. And this whole back area is being redone and renovated. But obviously they've got no power. And unfortunately, because of the rat problem and stuff they've had to do something about it. Anyway. So that's where we are today. So like I say, TV point is still to do, and I am going to try and solve this problem of getting the power back into the front room, or see if we can do that. What they might do, the clients might wait until this cladding comes down, because the twin and earth cable is behind the cladding. It's sandwiched between the cladding and the wall. I know that already. So if they get the cladding down, I can get access to the cabling and then redo all this in this room, nice and tidy and neat. Yeah, been an interesting job. Like I say, there's still a few more bits to do. I don't know whether on video the last couple of bits, just putting in a TV socket's really not that interesting. So if I do get around to doing the front sockets and showing you how all this wall looks without the cladding on, then I'll do so. But for the time being, I think we'll make that for another video for another time. So, hope you enjoyed this one, and the fact that it didn't go quite according to plan when the IR test didn't work. That's why you do deck tests. So that was useful, I think. Wasn't planned. Gave me a bit of a chill down my spine when I thought, oh, maybe I'll put a screw through a cable. I thought, no. But anyway, it turned out to be a false alarm. Anyway, we will see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.